All right, it is 1 o'clock Eastern time and whatever o'clock from wherever you're joining. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Mia Lodato, and welcome to Tech Insights Title 2 ADA. Are you ready? We are so excited to have with us today two fabulous experts from Academy, Jenna Falbush and Rob Carr. They are going to be sharing their resources and wisdom on Title II today. So, in order for them to tell them a little bit about themselves, I'm going to pass it over to Rob. Go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Like Mia said, I'm Rob Carr. I serve as a digital accessibility specialist with Academy. Really thrilled to have the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you all today.
Yeah, and I am Jenna Falbush, a technical assistance specialist with Academy, and also excited to be here for this Fast and Furious, quick ADA Title II overview and how you can get started.
We're so excited to have you guys here. Thank you so much for joining us. If I didn't say it already, I am the co-director of the Center on Inclusive Technology and Education Systems here at CAST, otherwise known as CITES. If you didn't know, the goal of CITES is to empower districts to create and sustain inclusive technology ecosystems. And we want those ecosystems to foster intentional collaboration between EdTech, AT, IT, and benefit students with disabilities and all students. And one of the ways that we can get to that is to work with the ATA Title II regulations and be compliant. So we're so excited to have our friends here from Academy to tell you a little bit about their resources for that. Take it away, Jenna.
And we're going to let Rob get started here, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
or Rob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. I will get some slides going. So I'll tell you a little bit about Academy because it might still not be a very familiar group. While I'm introducing Academy, it'd be awesome if you all could just introduce yourselves in the chat real briefly. We always like to know a little bit about who's participating in an audience like this. So Academy, that acronym stands for the National Center for Accessible Digital Educational Material and Instruction. It's a much more short-winded thing to just drop that down and say Academy. We are a technical assistance center that's funded by the Department of Education Office of Special Education Programs, and we exist to help improve the quality, availability, and timely provision of accessible digital educational materials and instruction. And we run the gamut from preschool all the way through high school. And we include parent centers and some other groups outside of the traditional or kind of typical schools. Um, Hi, Jana. How are you? Somebody relatively local. I'm in Oklahoma. We're based in northern Utah, but actually none of us who are here today, neither one of us is local to Utah. I'm in central Oklahoma. Just saw a familiar name there in the chat. And speaking of just exactly where we do reside, we are housed at Utah State University, which, like I said, is in northern Utah. Cache Valley. It's beautiful up there. And we're part of the Institute for Disability Research, Policy, and Practice. And we have a really unique partnership across IDRPP because we have WebAIM, which I also share time with WebAIM. WebAIM is a 25-year-old web and digital accessibility training and consulting group. And then we have a technical assistance in special education center that is within IDRPP as well. So we have a lot of people who have been approaching this topic from multiple angles, from AT, from the digital accessibility side. So just really a unique center because of the combination of human beings that we have. So to get into a little bit about what the Title II updates mean, this is relatively big. So, Title II of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, if you're not familiar, it's a broad civil rights law and it applies to state and local governments. It hasn't had anything really specific about accessibility online until a couple of years ago, coming up on 2 years ago, when the Department of Justice issued a new rule that brings digital much more into the forefront and is much more specific about what we need to do with our digital stuff. So number one, it applies directly to web content and mobile applications. So web content is a really broad category. I'll talk more about some examples of things that might be covered under Title II here in a few minutes. But this is a really big change, particularly for pre-K through 12, because what this asks us to do, what this requires us to do in the public sector, is to think about accessibility from the very beginning proactively and to think about it much more generally. This is something that gets into general education and general IT, not just about serving the needs of individual students with disabilities, but considering accessibility in the things that we purchase and use from the very beginning and really across the board. There is a set of technical standards called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. The link here will take you to basically kind of an introduction to the structure. This, as you might imagine, gets technical and often gets highly technical very quickly. It depends on a lot of different variables. For those of you who are working on Microsoft Office or something like that, you're not going to have near as broad of a set of things to keep in mind as the vendor partners that you work with, for example, who build your learning management systems or who manage your web presence. But I wanted that there for reference either way. Importantly, it also sets a couple of deadlines. Now, this was published back in 2024. So when I say that there's an April 2026 deadline, it is very immediate right now, but the Department of Justice did give entities a couple of years if their population is at or over 50,000. So if you serve a larger population area, then your deadline is coming up really, really quickly in just a couple of months. And to key in on the population idea, this is the area that you serve. So if you're a county school district, then you look at the population of the county that you're in. If you're in a city or a town, then you look at the city or town population. So it depends on the area served. Of course, state educational agencies across the country are all going to have to abide by the April 2026 deadline. Smaller entities under 50,000 are what they call a special district government. And don't confuse district here with a school district. School districts aren't considered special district governments, but smaller entities get another year until April of 2027. We also wrote up a primer on Title II to try to help give a little bit more depth to this conversation. You can find a lot of information online about it. The entire rule is published in full by the Department of Justice, but with this, we wanted to put it in the context of K through 12, and we wanted to focus a little bit more narrowly on some of the real important things. So if you do want to get a little bit more deep into this, then we have that resource, and Jen is dropping those things into the chat as well. So the impact, if we think about what this means for state and local education agencies, it likely means changes and updates to general education policies and adoption standards for curricular materials. It involves focusing on training and support because folks don't usually learn this stuff in school. So we need to train and support the people who are creating and making decisions about our technology in the classroom. And we need to be sure that we're covering as much ground as we can. Certainly, again, with this deadline now very imminent, where we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick in interest in trying to figure out, okay, we understand generally what we need to do. Now, how do we do it? There's certainly a risk assessment and compliance component to this because it is a much more specific law, the way that was written as far as all of the web and digital accessibility components. So you're going to be reaching into, the legal side. Your ADA coordinator should really be aware of this and hopefully helping to bring things to bear and build some resources out. And a big impact, because so much of what we put in the classroom comes from third-party vendors, is in our purchasing process, procurement for curricular materials as well as for other non-curricular materials. Our center focuses on classroom technology, but this is broad and big, and it includes public-facing websites and apps and all of the technology, just about all of the technology that you can imagine. For educators and the teams that support them, it's a matter of abiding by accessibility or bringing accessibility into the conversation for both teacher created and curated or brought into the classroom from a third party. That content is also very much a part of the ADA's scope. Some specific examples about what kinds of materials this might include. It is a lot. So your websites, your digital tools, I mentioned mobile apps. A lot of the student existence is on mobile apps anymore. There are mobile app versions of some of the tools that are also web-based. So that's a significant chunk of what the student experience is really built on at this point. Your online learning platforms, if you have a learning management system, you have those apps or different tools that are there for learners, that's in scope. If you have online videos, for example, or if you have some slide presentations, then those also need to be accessible as well. And then, like I mentioned, and just to reiterate, it's not just the big things that happen at maybe the state or district or broadly at the school level. It's also the materials that teachers create or curate and bring into the classroom. Another resource that we have pulled together is a roadmap for helping you all to kind of identify some distinct tasks and projects that you might need to take on in order to get moving on this or continue moving on this wherever you are in this particular journey. We tried to break these tasks into three different tiers to try to help prioritize. It's not prescriptive, right? We're not saying that or suggesting that you have to do these things in this order. In our experience, though, we feel like it's a pretty good beginning to get you to a place where you know what you need to do and can set some priority as well, because there is a whole lot to do. And so, Jenna, I am happy to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about the quality indicators.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Rob. And you should see on your screen, I just took over sharing, but it's the same slide. And the other main resource that we are talking about and are going to be talking about for the rest of our time together are the quality indicators for the provision and use of accessible digital educational materials, also called the quality indicators for accessible digital materials for short, or even shorter, DM. So the letters D for digital and M for materials. So when I talk about DM, I'm talking about this specific set of quality indicators. And if you want to put in the chat, yes or no, whether you've heard of these quality indicators, I'm curious to know what your familiarity is. Um, they did go live. I see some yeses. So they went live last fall. Um, And there are actually two sets of quality indicators. There is this set that focuses on digital materials, and there's a second set that focuses specifically on accessible formats. Each of the sets of quality indicators are designed to be interdependent rather than a sequential set of steps. And they are centered around what you're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen in the graphic. They're centered around a commitment from leadership, and that leadership needs to have decision-making authority. They also are centered on clear guidelines, especially in the areas of procurement and creating and curating accessible content. They also focus on ongoing training and support, as well as data collection that drives continuous improvement and sustaining activities and resources that support a coordinated system. And I see a question about where these indicators came from. There was a previous set of quality indicators that focused on the accessible educational materials, AEM, from the AIM Center. And we took those indicators and updated them and then broke them into two different sets at our center, at the National Center on Accessible Digital Educational Materials and Instruction, or InCITES. I do want to show you really briefly where these quality indicators live on the website, because it's going to help you understand some of the context for what I'm about to talk about. So if you're on our homepage, you would just click on the Sustain tab from the top menu bar and then select Quality Indicators. So I came right to that page. And here you'll find a little bit of information, and you'll see that there are links to the two different sets of quality indicators. You can use the link on the left-hand side to access the DM quality indicators, or you can always use the right-hand menu that stays put, the static menu here that you can just click on accessible digital educational materials as well. So I'm leading you to the DM quality indicators because that's our focus today, as they're the ones that focus on compliance and best practice for ADA Title II. Within the indicators here on this page, there are 7 different indicators, DMs 1 through DM7. Those are abbreviated, and you'll see those in that right-hand sidebar menu as well, from leadership all the way down to sustainability. One last note while we're here on the website is from that right-hand sidebar, if you click on implementation, which I'm at the kind of the bottom right of my screen, the implementation link will take you to 2 different implementation resources that we're going to talk about today. One being the Hexagon Readiness Tool and another being the self-assessments. So all of that is packaged here on our website, and I really encourage you to explore this more if you haven't already, but I do see definitely some people said they have heard of these and also some no's. So if you're one of the no's, hopefully you'll have a little time to kind of explore what's available on our website around the quality indicators. So I'm going to go back. Oh, you know what? I want to show you one more thing in those quality indicators. I just remembered. If I click on the main accessible digital educational materials indicator page and click on one of the quality indicators. So I'm going to click on commitment from leadership, which is the first quality indicator. And here, what I'm pointing out is that for each quality indicator, you're going to find a statement that tells you what's important, why this is there, and an intent and how it works. And then you're going to find critical components. And the critical components are kind of the actions that you can take to meet the quality indicator since it's a measure of success. So for instance, DM 1.1, that's quality indicator 1, critical component 1 is steering committee. So I just want to point that out, that DM like 1.1 is how, again, I'll be talking about some of the critical components of the 7 quality indicators today. So you can think about those, again, as systems infrastructure behind that ADA Title II compliance and best practice. So now I am back over to the slides, and we'll get this link shared in the chat. There is one more resource that kind of connects the two, or not kind of, it does connect the 2 resources that Rob and I just talked about. It takes the roadmap and the DM quality indicators and connects them together so that you can see how the implementation aligns across both frameworks, because they have a lot of overlap. So that link will be shared if not already. And now let's see, we've got about 5 quick minutes. So I'm going to highlight just for you some priorities for your agency if you serve over, if you serve 50,000 or more people in your community. So there is a strategy handout that will also get shared, and that handout is going to actually kind of build on these quick touch points that I have in the webinar or in this session for you today. You'll actually see in the handout that it really does elaborate on some focus areas. Because if you're 50,000 or more, your deadline's coming up in just a couple months. And so we know that you've got to prioritize systems level change very quickly. And so we highlight in this handout some five focus areas that you can choose to implement as soon as possible, using those DM quality indicators in a way that should get you some quick wins and off the ground if you're seeing that your efforts and your agency are scattered or maybe not really as present as they need to be at all. So the first focus area is to strengthen your leadership and your cross-disciplinary collaboration using Digital Material Quality Indicator 1, Critical Component 1, so DM 1.1. And we point this out because having a team is what's going to promote a shared responsibility, and it's going to help your colleagues better see that this isn't just a special education initiative, which we know is a common roadblock to really implementing accessibility system-wide. And in case you might be thinking, well, I don't even know who to include on my team. DM 1.1 actually provides a list of minimum roles and responsibilities to include on your team. The second area that you can focus on is to build and use accessibility data systems using DM 6.1. So again, highlighting some specific critical components for you today. And in that component, we're talking about the need to build or update an ed tech inventory, because that inventory is going to help your agency monitor risk, determine high impact tools that should be prioritized first. It's going to help you document accessibility efforts, which I saw in the chat. It's so important to document your efforts, and it's going to help you make proactive decisions. The third area is to prioritize the the integration of accessibility into your current professional development using DM 5.1. That's going to help you minimize cost and effort if you can build it into your professional development that's already happening. We also encourage you to embed accessibility into all areas of procurement. And though we're not going to have time today, the next slide does actually have some key questions that can be asked of vendors as you're thinking about procurement. And it might not be you asking the question to the vendor, but you can share that list of questions with those decision makers and those that are in the process of working and collaborating with vendors to make sure you're procuring accessible content for all of your students to use. So you'll see those here. And then the fifth focus area for those with 50,000 or more are to consider joining our professional learning group, or our PLG, at InCITES. This PLG will support you in a few different ways. Firstly, it's going to help you conduct self-assessments of the quality indicator critical components, because when you self-assess for each of those components, which are those actions, you can get that baseline data of where you're starting, and that can help you plan your action steps and record timelines and who needs to be involved. The professional learning group also will help you with setting goals and identifying those action steps and timelines if you're needing some guidance in those areas. You'll have the opportunity to collaborate with other states and districts on shared goals, and we provide space to work with your team and to solve problems of practice alongside one another. And at the end of a calendar year, if you would come onto the PLG with us, you work with us for one calendar year, and then you have the opportunity to move into a community of practice as well and continue that work. If your agency is serving less than 50,000 people, we have a few steps for you. And the first one is to assess your readiness to implement the DM quality indicators. And while I'm only pointing it out here for those agencies less than 50,000, it is still important to consider your readiness as a bigger agency as well. Readiness is going to really impact your overall implementation from start to finish. So make sure you think about assessing your readiness. And we have the Hexagon Readiness Protocol that will help you do that. And then we also highlight the need to strengthen your readiness. So you got to keep your readiness in mind while also taking some initial actions, such as completing those self-assessments, identifying internal champions and engaging your leadership. And two, we recommend considering InCITES PLG, that professional learning group, because we can help you and assist you as you're thinking about your implementation efforts as you're conforming to next year's deadline. And last but not least, I want to mention that we have, I'm saying in quotes, access hour, because we haven't officially named it yet. But you can bring your accessibility questions to our upcoming accessibility office hours. These are going to fire up at the end of March, so on March 25th. And then from there on out, it'll be the fourth Wednesday of the month. The time will be 3 p.m. Eastern, and the registration will open soon. So to make sure you stay ahead of that registration, if you're interested, or if you want more information about webinars and resources from InCITES, please contact us at incademy@usu.edu, or find all of our resources at incademy.org. And you can also sign up for our newsletter, incademy.org/newsletter, or scanning that QR code on the right-hand side of the screen to, again, stay on top of our latest offerings and any of those registrations that will be coming out sooner than later. So I know that was fast and furious, but please reach out with your questions. And we are really grateful to Mia and InCITES today to welcome us to this InCITES series. And thanks again for having us.
Thank you so much, Jenna and Rob. This was great information, and we're so excited that this can be supportive of our audience. We got some definitely a couple of hearts there. Now, if you could just take the time, everyone, to fill out our survey for us. Not only is it important to our grant, but it's also important to um, it's important for us to know how to guide our tech insights in the future. It's doubly important. So please, please, please take this moment to fill out this survey and give us your feedback regarding this tech insights and other things that you would like to see in the future. We do have some time, Rob, if you would like to answer any of those other questions that we saw in the chat. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, the one that stood out that it's going to be easier to just say it instead of type it is regarding enforcement and what happens if you don't meet the deadline. Typically, the Office for Civil Rights in the Department of Education is responsible for enforcement of the ADA for private and public schools. You might have heard a little bit about how OCR and the Department of Ed have seen a lot of cuts. We don't really know what the investigative capacity is going to be. In talking to colleagues and friends and talking to a couple of lawyers, the opinions are all over the place. Some think that it's possible that we'll see enforcement move into civil court with actual lawsuits, which is a very different animal than having Office for Civil Rights come in with an investigation and a settlement agreement. They actually help entities to abide by the terms of the settlement agreement. It'd be a lot different if we end up with civil lawsuits, but it's a little bit of an unknown right now. And I think, it's going to be until we get to the deadline, if not a little bit after, before we really find out what will happen or what won't happen or who's going to really be the primary player as far as enforcement goes.
Thank you so much for that. Looks like we said in the chat also that there are states that are moving towards moving forward with conformance separate from Title II, and he specifically mentioned Colorado. So that's interesting. And there was a question if you could post the readiness protocol you had up for agencies under 50,000. Do you know which slide they're referring to, Jenna?
Yes, if you just go back 3 slides,
Okay.
one more. Oh, sorry. All those.
It's okay. It's taking me a second.
There it is.
All right. Okay, so there's that information, and you should all have the information to the slides. Multiple times you put that in there. It's a bit.ly, and that would be bit.ly/ all capital letters CITES, CITES, then lowercase letters for title, TITLE, and the number 2. So that's the bit.ly to get all of these slides. And we want to thank you so much for attending. Please, again, make sure that you reach out to InCITES and make sure that you do our survey to help us know how we're doing. And also, please join us for our community of practice where we get EdTech, AT, IT families together to talk about all things inclusive technology. We would love for you to join our community of practice. Also, thank you again to Jenna and to Rob today. This has been really helpful information. I know that we are getting really close to the deadline, and I'm sure you guys are getting a lot of people reaching out right now. Before we leave, if there's one last thing that you would want to say to those districts out there really trying to do their best to try to get people on board, what's the first thing that people should do, or what's your leaving thought for those districts?
Oh, nothing like putting us on the spot here, Mia. No, I would say to like the first, there's kind of 2 thoughts. An overall thought is accessibility is a journey. We're never done. So take that in and you take it in stride and know that this is, not a sprint, it's a marathon. And my biggest takeaway here was to really engage your leadership. And in that handout, there's a sample email to send to leadership if they're not aware of ADA and this conformance deadline. This is a great time too to maybe even try using AI if maybe they have some idea of the conformance deadline, but drafting, using AI to help you draft that email to spread awareness and get them on board, because we need decision-making leadership engaged to really move the needle forward.
Love it. I think you just dropped the mic. Rob's
Yeah,
quiet,
no,
so it is done
I
for
have no
me.
notes. I have no notes. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's critical to get leadership from across working on this and really facilitating the work.
Thank you so much. It's great to have collaboration across OSEP partnerships, and have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Bye.